Welcome back to another episode. And today we're going to talk about why it never feels like enough. You hit the goal, you did it, you actually did it. The revenue month you said you wanted, you have it. The client you said you were waiting for, it finally came. The launch that it finally worked. The milestone you wrote on your journal at midnight 6 months ago when you were not sure of any of these things will come to reality. Finally, they show up. You were sitting in doubt, in the fear, and the quiet question of whether you built this or not. And you finally got it. You hit it. And for about 48 hours, maybe less, it feel like something. And then, poof, it's gone. And the voice came back. The one that has been there your whole life, dressed in different clothing, depend upon the season, calling itself ambition, self-drive, calling itself high standards, using every word it could find to avoid calling itself what it actually is. And it says what it always says. It's not enough. You are not enough. You need more. You need to do more. You need to be more. And you look at the goal that you just hit, the one that you have worked for, sacrificed for, prayed for, and it's starting to feel small. Already felt like it hit the floor, and the next thing is out there. It's far away. And it's already feeling like the evidence, not how far you have come, but how far you still have to go. And you know that feeling. If you recognize it in the first 10 seconds of this episode, you need to stay right here with me. Because what I'm about to tell you is not more advice about goal setting or productivity or how to finally get yourself together. What I'm about to tell you is going to change the framework that you have been using to understand yourself and your business. Not at the surface level, at the root. What is underneath? Because the problem is not your goals, it's not your ambition, it's not even your standards. The problem is a wound, and it has a name, and it's healable. My name is Karen. Welcome back to this episode that it goes where most coaches are afraid to take you. If you have never been here before, if someone sent you this or the algorithm brought you here today, subscribe right now. This is not a channel of surface level business tips. This is where we go to the root. Subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. And let's begin. Let's start by naming what we're actually talking about. Because most people who experience this chronic, relentless sense that whatever they do, whatever they achieve, whatever they build is still not enough. They have a word for it. Several words, actually. They call it perfectionist. They call it high standards. They call it ambition. They call it drive. They use those words because those words are socially acceptable. Those words are celebrated in entrepreneurship culture. Nobody celebrates what it actually is. And what really is, at its root, is a worthiness wound, a deep and often unconscious belief that your value as a human being is intrinsic, that it's not given, that it does not belong to you simply because you exist, but because it must be earned, it must be proven, it must be continuously justified through performance, through achievement, through an unbroken record of doing more, being more, producing more than what you produced yesterday. And here's the thing about worthiness wounds, that it makes them so insidious, so persistent, so resistant to ordinary self-improvement. They do not respond to evidence. Let me say this again, because it is the detail that explains everything. If your sense of enoughness were a logical conclusion drawn from evidence, then more evidence will change it. But if you believe you were not enough because you had not yet achieved enough, then achievement will fix it. You will hit the goal, the wound will close, the voice will quiet, and you will feel what you thought success was supposed to feel like. But that is not what is happening here. You hit the goal, the voice comes back louder and louder. You hit the next goal, same thing happened. You build the business you say you wanted. The hollow feeling follows right into because the womb was never about the achievement. The womb exists at a level that achievement cannot reach. This is what I mean when I said the problem is not your goals. Your goals are not too big. Your ambition is not the issue. The issue is the operating system those goals are running on. When your pursuit of achievement is powered by worthiness womb, when the engine underneath all this striving is not genuine desire, but fear of being exposed is not enough. You create a very specific and exhausting cycle. The cycle goes like this. You set a goal, not from a place of genuine desire for the experience the goal will create, but from a place of needing to prove something to yourself or to the people who doubted you. To the version of you that it was told that she was too much or not enough, or both at the same time. You pursue the goal with everything you have because the stakes feel enormous, not because the goal itself is enormous, but because your worth feels like it's riding on the outcome. You achieve the goal or you do not. And if you do not, the womb gets louder. If you do, and this is the part that it breaks people, the womb stays exactly the same because you are not actually chasing the goal. You're chasing the feeling of being enough. And the goal cannot deliver that because not external outcome ever can. So you reset, you find a bigger goal. You tell yourself, this one, this milestone, this number, this recognition will finally be the one that it makes it quiet down. And the cycle begins again and again and again. And I want you to hear me on this. This cycle is not a character flaw. It is not an evidence that you are broken or you're too ambitious or fundamentally incapable of satisfaction. It's an evidence that you are carrying a womb that it was given to you by your childhood, by your culture, by your experience, by the people who shape you before you ever had the language or the capacity to question it. You did not choose this womb, but you can choose to heal it. And that choice is what this episode is about. Before I go further, I want to acknowledge something because I know who is in this room right now. You are not someone who does not try hard enough. You are someone who has never stopped trying. You are not someone who lacks gratitude. You feel guilty precisely because you know how much you have, and yet it still does not feel like enough, and you cannot understand it. Why? Why is this happening? You are not someone who is ungrateful for what you have built. You are someone who is genuinely confused about why building it has not produced the feeling you were told it would. That confusion is not ingratitude. That confusion is intelligence. And it is your soul trying to tell you that the framework that you have been using to evaluate your own worth is fundamentally broken. Today, we're going to a better framework. I want to walk you through the 5 roots of the never enough womb because it doesn't come from one place. It comes from multiple places. And understanding your specific roots is what makes healing possible instead of just theoretical. As I name this, I want you to notice what it lands on you, not what you think it should apply to you, what it actually feels. Your body will tell you which ones are yours. Root number 1, conditional love. The first and most foundational root at the never enough. This one is the experience in childhood and the earliest relationship that has shaped your understanding of love, of the love that felt conditional. Now I want to be careful here because most of us did not have parents or caregivers who were explicitly were saying, I will love you if you perform. Most of us did not receive that message in words, but many of us received it in behavior, in the way the praise was given, enthusiastically when we succeeded, and with help when we struggled, and the way attention was allocated, present when we were achieving, absent when we needed to simply be. And the family system that rewarded accomplishment and threat ordinariness is something close to that disappointment. When a child grows up in that environment, when the message observed, even without being spoken, is that love is something you earn through performance, she learns something that it will follow her into every room she ever occupies as an adult. Your worth is not given, it's produced. And so she becomes extraordinary. She becomes the high achiever, the reliable one, the one who always delivers, always shows up, always does more than she's being asked. Not because she's naturally driven in an uncomplicated way, but because performing has become her strategy for staying safe, staying loved, staying valuable. And then she builds a business. And she brings every single layer of that strategy with her. I'm not asking you to blame your parents. I'm not asking you to rewrite the narrative of your childhood is one of harm. Most parents gave what they had, and love as well is they know. What I'm asking you to see is that conditional environments produce conditional self concepts. In a conditional self concept, one that it says, I'm not enough when I achieve, is the engine underneath the cycle that we're talking about today. Seeing it, naming it, do not excuse it, and do not dramatize it. Just see it clearly, because clarity is the beginning of freedom. Root number 2, generational transmission. The second root goes even deeper than your personal childhood. It goes into what you inherited. We are living in an era of extraordinary scientific discovery about the ways that our nervous system and our psychological patterns are shaped, not just by our personal experience, but by the experience of the generations before us. The research in epigenetics, the science of how our environment literally shape our gene expression, is revealing something that wisdom traditions have always known. We carry our ancestors with us in our bodies, in our beliefs, in our unconscious patterns. And for many women in this community, particularly women who come from immigrant families, from communities of economic hardship, from cultural contexts where scarcity was the dominant reality, the never enough womb is not just personal, it's generational. Your grandmother maybe have grown up in a world where there was genuinely not enough. Not enough food, not enough safety, not enough financial security, not enough space for women to want more than what she was assigned to. And the pattern she developed to survive that reality, it was hypervigilance, the constant scanning for threat, the inability to rest because rest felt like vulnerability. Those patterns were passed down to your mother and now to you, which means that when you feel the constant drive to do more, achieve more, prove more, some of what you are feeling is not even yours. Some of what you're feeling is an inherited alarm system, a generational nervous system response to a scarcity that it no longer exists in your current life. But your body has been carrying it as if it does. This is not abstract. This is one of the most concrete and important things I can tell you about why the never enough feeling is so persistent, even in women who have built real abundance in their lives. Their nervous systems are running on a scarcity program that it was written generations ago. And no amount of revenue will override that program until the program itself is addressed. You are not just healing yourself. When you do this work, when you heal the never enough womb, you are healing it forward and backwards. You are breaking a pattern that has been running in your lineage for generations. You are becoming the one that it stops with. That is not small work. That is legacy work. Root number 3, achievement as an identity. This is the pattern that develops when at some point in your history, your accomplishments became the primary source of your sense of self. When that, what you do, becomes so fused with who you are, that the two are no longer separated. It shows up in subtle ways. And the way your mood on any given day is primarily determined by whether you feel that you're being productive enough, and the way that you describe yourself to new people, almost entirely in terms of what you have built, what you have achieved, what you have been working on. And the way you struggle to rest without guilt, to play without justification, to simply be without parallel running narrative about what you should be doing instead. When achievement is your identity, when your sense of self lives inside accomplishment rather than underneath them, every moment without achievement feels like an existential threat. Not just uncomfortable threatening, because without the achievement, the question emerged that you have been running from. Who am I? Actually, who am I when I'm not producing? That question is terrifying to a woman whose identity is fused with her output because she does not have an answer. She has never needed one. She has always been able to point to what she has built and call that herself. But here's what I need you to understand. A self built entirely of accomplishment is a self that it requires constant reconstruction because accomplishments are temporary. They're achieved and then they are in the past. And a past accomplishment does not sustain a present identity. The next one must always be bigger. The next proof of worth must always be more convincing. This is a treadmill. This is why it never feels enough because doing can never fully satisfy the hunger of being. And until you know who you are separate from what you achieve, until your identity has foundation that is not dependent upon the results, the treadmill does not stop. It only gets faster and faster and faster. Root number 4, the comparison economy. This is the root that has been dramatically amplified by the specific world that we live in right now. And I say this with full awareness that what I'm about to describe is something that I know that many of you are living daily. We are the first generation of entrepreneurs who have built our businesses inside an environment of constant curated algorithm, amplified visibility into another people's result. We see other people's launching things, their testimonials, their revenue, their screenshots, their followers account, their sold out programs in real time, all day, every day, specifically to surface the most impressive version of what everyone around us is doing. And the human nervous system was not designed for this. We were designed for communities of roughly 150 people. For a social comparison within a small, local, no wobble context, for a world where enough was measured against a reality you can actually touch and see it and verify. We are now trying to calibrate our enoughness against a global infinity curated highlight reel or a TikTok. And it is doing something to us that we have not fully recognized yet. Every time you open an app and see someone who appears to be further ahead, more successful, more recognized, more aligned, more everything than you, your nervous system registers that as a threat, not a metaphorical one, a biological one. The same social threat response that in the ancestral time context will have signaled potential exile from the group. One of the most dangerous outcomes a human could face. And your response to that threat, the drive to do more, prove more, show more, achieve more, so you remain competitive, so that you remain relevant, so that you remain worthy of a place in the community. That is not vanity. That is survival response, operating in a context that it was never designed for. The comparison economy is not just bad for your self-esteem, it's a direct driver of the never enough wound. Because inside infinity field of comparison, there will always be someone who appears to be more. And more that it is always visible will always make enough feel perpetually out of reach. The bill is not to delete all your apps, though sometimes that is the right short-term move. The pill is to develop what I call a sovereign standard of enough, an internal reference point for your progress that is calibrated against your own calling, your own timeline, your own specific journey, and that cannot be destabilized by what someone else is doing in a completely different context with a completely different gifts, walking a completely different path. We will build that together with a different framework. But first, root number 5. If you're still here, if you have recognized yourself in every single one of these roots, I want you to pause for a moment before we go into the science. Like this video right now, not as a transaction, as an acknowledgement of yourself, of the courage that it takes to look into honestly, and of the truth of a conversation like this one, that it goes all the way to the root, that it serves to reach every woman who is running this womb without knowing that it has a name. Click like right now, and let's go to root number 5, is spiritual disconnection. Root number 5 is the one that sits underneath all others, and it is the one that requires the most honesty to name. Many women who carry the never enough womb are also carrying, whether they use this language or not, is spiritual disconnection, a severance from the deepest source of their sense of inherited worth. Let me explain what I mean with this. There is a version of worth that it comes from the outside in, from performance, from achievement, from approval of others, from the metrics and the milestones of the recognition. This is the version of worth that is the womb that is constantly chasing. And then there is a version of worth that it comes from the inside out, from the bedrock belief, live not just intellectually held, that you were created with value, that your worth is not something you earn or produce or sustain through effort, that it was given to you before you ever achieve anything, before you ever build anything, before you ever prove anything to anyone. When a woman is connected to that source of worth, when it's not just a concept that she agrees with, but a truth that she has genuinely settled into her body, the never enough cycle does not have the same power. Because the driver underneath the cycle is the hunger for worth. And when worth is no longer dependent on achievement, the compulsive need to achieve at the expense of everything else begins to be softened. Not the desire to achieve, the compulsion, the fear-driven identity depend upon word-chasing compulsion. I want to speak directly to the women in this community who grew up in faith traditions or who have faith tradition that is alive in them right now. This root speaks directly to you. Because many of you have been told theologically, intellectually, that your worth is given, that you are loved unconditionally, that you were made with purpose and meaning, that you have value. And yet, when you look honestly on how you actually are living, at the patterns that are actually driving your decisions, at the anxiety that it runs underneath the ambition, the theology and the lived experience are not matching. You believe it in your head. You have not received it in your body. In that gap, that space between what you profess about your worth and what you actually feel about your worth in the quiet moments, in the slow seasons, in the hours when the metrics are not moving, that gap is spiritual work, not just mindset work, not just therapy work, it's spiritual work. The work of actually opening yourself to receive what you say you believe in your nervous system, in your identity, in the way you show up every morning to your business. This is the root that it goes deeper, and healing it changes everything above it. Now, I want to show you what is happening in your brain and in your body when the never enough womb is running. Because understanding the biology of the pattern is one of the most compassion generated things that I can offer you. When you understand what is happening psychologically, when you can see the mechanism, you stop calling yourself you're broken. And when you stop calling yourself broken, you become available for the real healing. Let's start with the brain reward system. Deep in the center of your brain lives a structure called the nucleus, the primary seat of what neuroscience call the dopamine reward pathway. This is your brain's achieving engine. It is the system that motivates behavior by releasing dopamine, the feel-good neurochemical in anticipation reward. Here's the key word, anticipation. The research on this is striking. Your brain releases more dopamine in the pursuit of a goal than in the achievement of it. The anticipatory phase, the wanting, the working towards, they're almost there, is neurologically more rewarding than the arrival. which means that your brain is actually designed to find the journey more satisfying than the destination. You're literally wired to feel more in the chase than in the having it. This is not a design flaw. It is a proper context in a life where goals are genuinely chosen from desire, love, and calling. This wiring produces extraordinary creativity, persistence, and vitality. It keeps you engaged in growing and building through your entire life. But in the context of the never enough womb and a life where the goal is not genuine desire but a proof of worth, this wiring creates the treadmill. Because the dopamine spike of pursuit disappears upon the arrival. The goal is achieved, the chemical reward evaporates, and then the survival brain, trained to equate achievement with safety, immediately begins scanning for the next target. Not because you are greedy, because your nervous system experienced the completion of the goal is the removal of the safety signal, and it needs a new one immediately. This is the neuroscience of why it never feels like enough. Not a character flaw, a biological pattern running inside a womb. Now, let me talk about the nervous system dimension of self-worth specifically, because this is where the healing actually happens. Your sense of worthiness, how much you genuinely feel at the body level that you deserve good things, that you were allowed to receive love, to receive rest, recognition, and abundance, is not stored in your thoughts. It's stored in your nervous system. And the patterns of activation and response that they were laid down in your earliest experience and reinforced repeatedly over decades of living. This is why you can read hundreds of books about self-worth. You can attend a retreat. You can fill the journal. You can repeat the affirmations and wake up the next morning with the same low-grade feeling that something is still missing, that you're still not quite enough, that the next thing needs to happen before you can finally breathe. Because the intellectual understanding of worthiness and the somatic nervous system level experience of worthiness are two entirely different things. And you can possess the first without the second for a long time. The research in what science call interoception, the brain capacity to sense the internal state of the body, shows that our felt sense of ourselves, our emotional reality, our experience, our worth in safety and belonging is generated bottom up from the body to the brain, far more than it is generated from top down from the thought to the feeling. Which means if you want to change how you feel about your worth, not just think about it, you have to go into your body, into the nervous system, into the places where the old data is stored, and you have to create new experiences there, new signals, new patterns of safety, insufficient, and genuine belonging. This is not quick work, but it is the real work. And unlike affirmations passed over in unaddressed womb, it is a permanent work. Now, here is where the spiritual dimension enters. And for me, this is not separated from science. It is the same truth is spoken in a different language. Every major spiritual tradition has a version of the same foundational teaching that human beings possess an inherited worth, not earned worth, not performing worth, given worth, what is an expression of the nature of the one who created them. In the Christian tradition, this is the doctrine of Imago Dei, the belief that every human being is made in the image of God, and therefore it carries the dignity of the divine. In contemplative traditions across cultures, this shows up as a teaching that the deepest truth of who you are beneath the roles, the achievement, the failures, the personality, the performance is not something that you can diminish or enhance by anything you do or you do not do. The spiritual language for what neuroscience is now confirming is this: you were born enough. You have always been enough. Everything you have been chasing, the feeling of sufficient, of being complete, of finally being allowed to rest, has been inside of you the entire time, buried, covered, often genuinely inaccessible due to the weight of the womb above it, but there, unchanged, waiting. The work, the real work, is not to become enough. You cannot become what you already are. The work is to remove what is in the way of your experience, what is already true, what is already there. That is the work of the mind archaeologist. That is the work that I do here. If this touched something, if you're sitting with this and the feeling, the way of it, the relief, the strange combination of grief and freedom that it comes when something finally gets a name, share this episode right now. Not after, now. Think about the woman in your life who has been high achieving and hollow for years. It has never had a language for what it was underneath. Send her this conversation. This might be the thing that it cracks open the door that she did not know it existed. Share it. Framework time. 4 steps. It's easy. Not really. It's easier, and for some people it's not. But I would say it's something that it needs to get done if you truly want to heal this feeling of not enough. I'm going to go deep into each one because these are not concepts. They are practices. They require your participation. It requires your honesty, and it requires your willingness to go somewhere that is uncomfortable, because that's where it's the healing. The first step is archaeological by nature, which is why this is the work I call mind archaeology. Every never enough feeling has a specific origin story, a specific moment, or a set of moments where the conclusion, I'm not enough as I am, was first drawn, and that moment is buried, often so far beneath the surface of your daily awareness that you have forgotten that it's there, but it's still running, it's still shaping every decision about how much you need to achieve before you allow to feel worthy. And the first step of healing it is finding it. Not to wallow in it, not to re-traumatize yourself by reliving it, but to see it clearly as an adult woman with the perspective and the resources that she did not have when the womb was created, and to name what actually happened. So what are you going to do? The next time you notice the never enough feeling, the hollow arrival after a goal, the compulsive pivot to the next thing before you even celebrate the current thing, the creeping anxiety that what you have is insufficient. Pause. Before you redirect into the next strategy or the next goal or the next distraction, and ask 3 questions. Question number 1. When is the earliest time I can remember feeling exactly this feeling? Not in your business, not last year, as early as you can go. Childhood, the first time with this specific flavor of not enough arrived. Question number 2. What was the conclusion I drew about myself in that moment? Not what you think intellectually about yourself now. What did the child or teenager or the young woman in that moment decide that it was true about her worth? What belief she reached about herself based upon what was happening around her? And question number 3, how is that belief is still running the business right now? Where did that pattern is still shows up in the way you price your offers, in the way you receive compliments, deflecting them before they can be fully land, in the way you work through sickness and through exhaustion because stopping feels like the proof of that belief. Write what comes up without editing, without judgment. This is not therapy. Though therapy is a gift that you have access to it. This is a simple act of seeing clearly, and seeing clearly is the gift for everything that it follows. Is step number 2 is where we go from excavation to reconstruction, because seeing the wound clearly is necessary, but it is not sufficient. You also have to offer your nervous system a new story to grow into. And I want to be very specific about what I mean by a new story, because most reframe your mindset advice stays at the level of thought. It asks you to think differently. And I am asking you to go deeper than that. A new story in the context of healing a worthiness wound is not a positive affirmation. It is a new embodied experience, a new series of moments in which your body, not just your mind, it gets to experience something different from what the old wound it was predicting. Your nervous system learns through experience, not through instruction. You cannot argue into a new belief. You have to give a new evidence at the level where it actually lives, which is the body. Here's what rewiring actually looks in practice. Practice one, completion. Celebrations that they are non-negotiable. Every time you complete something, every goal, every launch, every difficult conversation, every piece of content that requires courage, you mark it. Now with the social media posts, with the private embody of a ritual of acknowledgement. This can be as simple as placing your hand in your heart, taking 3 deep breaths and saying out loud, I did that. That was real. I am proud of the woman who did that. I am proud of you. You're amazing. And it sounds small, but it's not small. It's the act of interrupting the achievement to the next achievement loop. It's giving your nervous system the experience of an arrival, the genuine, full, unhurried experience of landing in what you built before launching into what is next. Do this consistently every time, not just for the big wins, for the small ones too, because the small ones are where the wound is most insidious. The big wins get acknowledgement. The ordinary acts of courage and discipline that make up most of the work, those rarely get to be seen, and the wound lives in that gap. And now, practice number two, identity statements from being, not doing. Most people's self descriptions are built entirely from what they do. I'm a coach. I'm a cleaner. I'm a business owner. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a content creator. When you remove the doing, when you strip away the role, the title, the function, who you are, who you really are. I want you to write 5 statements about who you are that it has nothing to do with what you have achieved. They might feel awkward at first. They might feel unheard, which is exactly the response to pay attention to, because that discomfort is the womb speaking. Something like, I'm a woman of deep compassion. I'm a woman someone loves fiercely and completely. I'm a person of extraordinary resilience. I am someone whose presence creates safety for others. I'm a woman whose worth was given to her at birth and has never been in question. Read those statements out loud every morning, not as affirmation layer over doubt, but it's an excavation. It's the practice of removing what has been covering the truth that it was always there. Practice number 3, receive without deflecting. This is the hardest one for high achieving women, and this is the one that I'm going to ask you to commit to starting today. The next time someone compliments you, genuinely, specifically from the heart, do not deflect it. Do not immediately redirect it to what you still have left to do, or who else deserves credit, or how much more you have to learn. Do not minimize it. Do not qualify it. Simply receive it. Say something like, thank you, or hold eye contact. Let it land. Let it feel in your body. Because deflecting compliments is not humility. It's a self-worth wound in action. And it is your nervous system refusing to let evidence of your worth actually enter. And every time you deflect, you reinforce the belief that the compliment somehow is undeserved, that the person giving it does not fully see you, or if they did, they will not feel the way they feel about you. Receiving is a practice, and it is one of the most powerful rewiring tools available to you, because every genuine compliment actually let yourself receive is a new data point for your nervous system, a new moment of evidence that it contradicts the old verdict. Step 3, this is where we create the internal reference point that it makes everything sustainable. Because one of the primary reasons it never feels like enough that you have not clearly defined it. Personally, non-negotiable definition of what enough is actually for you. And in the absence of that definition, the default standards becomes whatever one step beyond where you currently are. An invisible bar that it moves every time you approach it. A finish line that is always exactly as far away as you are. A sovereign standard of enough is the definition of sufficiency that you author, not the market, not your competitors, not the boys that measure your worth against other people's highlight reels. You. Here's how you build it. First, define what is enough for you, what it feels like before you define what it looks like. Most goal setting advice starts with the external definition, the number, the metric, the outcome. I'm asking you to start somewhere different. I'm asking you to start with the felt sense, what enough feels like. What would your body feel like if you genuinely feel like enough right now in this season with what you currently have and who you are currently are? Not when you hit the next goal, now. Will it feel like breathing more fully, like moving more slowly, like being fully present in a conversation without a part of your mind calculating what else it needs to be done? Like waking up and genuinely looking forward to the day instead of immediately reviewing your to-do list? Get specific about the felt sense, because that felt sense is not a reward waiting at the end of the achievement. It is the state of being that you can begin practicing now, that you can begin choosing in the small but real ways before you hit the next milestone. Second, create the enough inventory. This is a practice I give every client who comes to me stuck in the never enough cycle. It is a list written physically, handwritten if possible, of everything that is already true about your life and your work that it qualifies as enough. Not by the standard of your most ambitious vision, but by the standard of the woman you were 3 years ago or 5 years ago, who will cry with gratitude at the life you already have right now. What you have built, what you have learned, who has your work touched, what capacity do you have that you did not have before, what it has changed in you, not just in your business. That matters. Write that list, make it long, make it specific, and then read it. Not once, weekly, because the never enough womb is fed by selected attention, by the way your nervous system is trained to notice the gap and ignore the ground. The enough inventory is the practice of retraining that attention. Number three, set a ceiling, not just the floor. This is the most counterintuitive element of the sovereign standard, and it is the one that high achievers resist the most. In addition to knowing what you are working towards, you need to know when you will stop adding and start inhabiting. A ceiling, not a permanent ceiling, but a seasonal one. A defined point at which you say, this is what I said I needed, I have it, and I'm going to stop adding and I'm going to start living fully inside of what I built. Most entrepreneurs only ever set floors, minimums, baseline, start points. They never set ceilings. And without a ceiling, there's no arrival. There is only always more floor to put beneath you. Define the ceiling. Name what would actually constitute enough for this season, not for your entire life, for this year, for this quarter. And when you reach it, stop, rest, receive, let it be enough because you said that it was. And your word to yourself matters. Step number 4 is not practice, it's a decision. And I said that with the full weight of what decision actually means. Not the light way. I have decided to try this version, to commit it. I'm no longer available for alternatives. The identity of a woman who lives from enoughness, who operates from a genuine, settled, embodied sense of her own sufficiency is not something you wait to feel your way into. It is something you decide your way into. And then through the practice, through the healing, through the community, through the support, you will grow into the decision you already made. Here's what that decision looks in practice. It looks like pricing your work from your value, not from fear. Charging what the transformation genuinely is worth. From the settled confidence that you are the woman who can deliver it. Not from the anxious calculation of what you think people will pay. Filtered through the womb that it says you might not be worth more than what they are already giving you. It looks like creating content from overflow instead of obligation, showing up to your audience because you are genuinely full of insight, full of love, of something real to give. Not just because the algorithm demands it and you are afraid that what would have happened if you disappeared. No, but because you really want to give from overflow. It looks like receiving good things without bracing for them to be taken away. Receiving the client's yes, the positive feedback, the unexpected opportunity with open hands instead of the fist clenched, waiting for the catch grip of a woman who has never fully believed she deserved what she's being offered. It looks like resting without justification, taking the afternoon, closing the laptop, being with the people you love in a way that is genuinely present, not just physically present, while mentally composing the new caption or thinking about what else you need to do. This is not complacency. This is not settling for less than your calling. This is not making your ambition low. This is the woman who builds from wholeness instead of hunger. And that woman, that grounded, rooted, genuinely enough woman, builds things that last. She builds things that carry the frequency of the sufficiency and the abundance of genuine love for the people she serves. And those things attract the client she's called to serve at the prices they honor exchange, at the peace that is sustainable across not just in season, but into the next 10 years. She is not chasing the feeling of enough. She's living from it. And the irony, the beautiful, liberating irony, is that from that place, she often achieved more than the woman who was running from the womb ever could achieve. Because she's not spending half of her energy fighting with herself. She's moving in one direction with her whole self, decided to be that woman, not when the revenue arrives, not when the womb is fully healed, now, with where you are, with what you have, with who you are already, genuinely, finally enough. I want to take this last section of this teaching before the invitation to paint a picture for you. Not a picture of a business, a picture of a woman. Because I think one of the reasons that never enough womb is so persistent that we have never been given a compelling enough vision of what life looks like and feels like on the other side of it. We know what the womb feels like. We know the treadmill. We know the hollow arrival and the compulsive reset and the chronic low-grade exhaustion of never fully landing anywhere. But we have rarely been shown in detail, in flesh and blood, in the dailiness of it, what it actually looks like to be a woman who has done this work, who has healed enough of the womb to live differently, not perfectly, not without struggle, but differently. Let me show you her. She wakes up in the morning and her first thought is not to-do list. It's not the immediate calculation of what did she not got done yesterday or what did she needs to produce today to stay on pace or how many followers she gained overnight. Her first thought is something quiet, gratitude, sometimes a prayer, a sense of being genuinely present in the day that is beginning, rather than already inside of the anxiety or whether the day will be enough. She's still ambitious. Do not confuse what I'm describing with the absence of drive. She wants things, big things, things that require courage and consistency, real creative effort. She's not done building. She's not playing small. But her ambition has a different quality now. It's not fueled by fear. It's fueled by genuine desire, by the love of the work and the love of the people the work serves. And that difference between fear-filled ambition and love-filled ambition changes everything about how the building feels like from the inside. She charges what her work is worth, and she does not apologize for it. Not in the pricing conversation, not in the proposal, not in the quiet moments when the "who do you think you are" voices try to resurface. She names her price from a place of such a subtle certainty about the value of the transformation she delivers that the voice does not get much traction. Because the old voice, it still shows up sometimes. She names it. She thanks it for trying to protect her, and she moves forward anyways. She has hard seasons. Of course she does. Slow months, failed experiments, the occasional launch that it does not land it the way she hoped. She's not immune to the difficulty of entrepreneurship, but the hard seasons are no longer convincing her that she's not enough. They are seasons, informative, part of the rhythm, not verdicts. She knows the difference now between a hard season and a fundamental truth about her worth. And that distinction changes everything about how she moves through difficulty. She receives. That might be the simplest and most profound description I can give you. She receives compliments. She receives help. She receives recognition. She receives love of her clients, of her community, and the people in her life. Not with her hands slightly open or ready to give back, but with her hands wide open, with genuine, uncomplicated, embodied gratitude for the good that is coming to her. Because she finally believes she's allowed to have it. She has stopped running the calculation, the exhausting, perpetual, unconscious calculation of whether what she has done is enough to justify what she's receiving. The calculation has been retired, not because she stopped caring, but because she finally understands that the past that she had, it was not her reality. So she begins with a new way of living, that her worth was never a balance to maintain. It was given. It always was. And when she sits at her desk in the morning and look at what she has built, the community, the impact, the business that is genuinely hers, built in her specific voice, from her specific story, with her specific gifts, she does not immediately jump into what is missing. She lets herself see it, all of it, the real, the substantial, the meaningful thing that it is. And for a moment, many moments, she lets it be enough. Because it is. It's nothing to continue to chase. She already see enough, feel enough, because she is enough. And she has finally stopped needing anything from the outside of herself to confirm what it was always true from the beginning. And I believe that that woman is who you are being called to become, who you are being called to unbury that woman, because she lives there. She is in you. And not someday, not after the next level, right now. Call that woman forward. She is not waiting for you at the revenue goal. She's waiting for you in the decision that you make at the end of this episode. And I want to close this conversation the way I close every conversation, with an invitation into a decision. Not a passive response to a good episode, a decision, a real one, the kind that your nervous system is actually registers, the kind that it creates a before and an after. Because here's what I know about the women in this community. You are not lacking information. You are not lacking intelligence, talent, vision, or desire. You have all those things. What moves the needle, what actually shifts the trajectory is a decision. Real, rooted, non-negotiable decision. So here's what I'm asking you to decide today. Decision 1. Decide that you are already enough. Not eventually. Not when it feels safer or more deserving. No, now. Decide right now in this moment that the never enough cycle ends here. Not because the womb is fully healed, but because you are no longer willing to let it be the ceiling of your potential. Because you understand that the operating system running underneath your business is yours to rewire. In that rewiring, it begins not with a new strategy, but with a new identity. And if you have made that decision, if something in your body say yes to that, comment below with the words, I am the operating system. Those words are a declaration, a statement of ownership, a commitment that the real work begins inside out. I read every single comment. If you write those words, I know something changed today. Decision number 2, subscribe to this channel. I say this in every episode, not as a formality, but because I mean it. This is not where we do surface level tactics. This is where we go to the root. This is where we talk about things that are actually in the way, the wounds, the patterns, the programs, the spiritual disconnections that the strategy alone will never touch. If this episode gave you language for something you have been carrying for years without the name, this is where that work continues. Subscribe so you are here for the next conversation. And share this episode with a woman in your life who is high achieving and hollow and has never had this conversation. The one who is too busy proving that she is enough to stop and do the work of actually becoming. Send this to her. She needs to hear it. Decision number 3, like this video. Do it as an act of agreement of saying this kind of content matters. This depth deserves to reach more women, more entrepreneurs who are building real things from real calling and deserves the real conversation. One click, do it now, and know that that matters. And now the most important invitation. If you're watching this right now, and the never enough womb I described is not just recognizable to you, if it is you, if it is the operating system you have been running on for as long as you can remember, I want to talk to you, not in a group, not in a generic program, directly. Because this kind of womb, a worthiness womb that has been running for years, that it has shaped the way you price and show up and receive and build, it's not something that it gets resolved through information alone. It results through the kind of guided, specific, and deeply personal work that looks at your story, your nervous system, your specific version of the womb, and it creates a path to your specific healing. That is the work that I do with the women that I walk along the side in my coaching practice. We do not just upgrade the strategy. We go to the root. We excavate what is in the way. We rebuild the identity from the ground up. And then from that rebuilt foundation, we build a business that it actually matches the calling. The women that I work with are not struggling entrepreneurs looking for a quick fix. They are powerfully talented and deeply called women who are ready to stop letting an old womb to be the ceiling of their current potential. If that is you, if you felt something in your body, as I said those words, I want to hear from you. Go to therealnextlevel.com and apply for the coaching. The application asks you for a few direct questions. Answer them honestly, because the work we do together begins with honesty. And if there is alignment, if this is the right season for you, and if you are the right woman, and if I am the right person to walk along the side with you, we will know at the first conversation. You have spent enough time being the most capable woman in the room and still feeling like the least worthy. That ends when you decide it ends. TheRealNextLevel.com. Apply today. And before you go, I want to say one more thing, and I mean it with my whole heart. You did not stumble onto this episode. You were brought here because some part of you, the part that has always known that there is a deeper way to understand what you have been carrying, was ready for this conversation. Honor that part. She has been trying to get your attention for a long time. The work is real. The healing is real. In you, the fully expressed, genuinely enough, completely worthy woman underneath the womb, she is real too. She has always been real. She is waiting for you to stop proving yourself long enough to meet her. You are the operating system. Act accordingly. I will see you on the next episode.